Have no fear for atomic energy, 'cause none of them can stop the time. How long shall they kill our prophets while we stand aside and look? Some say it's just a part of it, but we got to fulfill the book. Now won't you help me sing, oh, these songs of freedom for all I ever had. Redemption songs, yes, redemption songs, redemption songs, redemption songs. Everybody, yeah, whoa, everybody, yeah, oh Lord, sweet Jamaica, yeah, all right. Everyone, emancipate yourselves from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free our minds. Have no fear for atomic energy, 'cause none of them can stop the time. How long shall they kill our prophets while we stand aside and look? Some say it's just a part of it, but we got to fulfill the book. Now won't you help me sing now these songs of freedom for all I ever had. Redemption songs, redemption songs, redemption songs, redemption songs, yeah, redemption songs, yeah, 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 yeah. Ooh, oh yes, oh yes, redemption songs.
You've just heard Andre Shepard with his rendition of Redemption Song. Interestingly, Stacey, Andre started singing in church on a regular basis at the request of his grandparents. Thank God for grandparents, eh? He's been active since in the music arena, performing for audiences locally and internationally.
In his own words, I seek to inspire with the gift of music that God has given to me. And what an instrument God has given to him.
Indeed.
An excellent young man. And when you meet him, he has such an engaging spirit. He is humble and really a joy to be around. And what a voice that entertains and inspires at the same time. Now, as we look on screen, we see the markers back in place. We see the photographers moving back into position. And any moment now, the Governor General will resume his position on the presentation platform for the second set of awards this morning, the Order of Distinction in the rank of officer. As we had mentioned before, we had 34 Jamaicans in the previous section.
Acting in accordance with the provisions of the National Honors and Awards
38
Act,
Jamaicans
has been pleased on the advice of the Prime
being
Minister
bestowed with
to
the
give
Order
orders
of
for the
Distinction in the rank
conferment
of
the
officer.
Order of Distinction upon the following persons with effect from the 6th of August, Order of Distinction in the rank of officer. Mr. Aston Archibald Barnes, for contribution to the ministerial fraternity and to social development, welfare, and philanthropy.
Pastor Aston Barnes has served the Seventh-day Adventist Church in various capacities over the past 65 years. He served as teacher, auditor, stewardship director, and treasurer of the West Indies Union Conference of Seventh-day Adventists. He's also an author. Church Financing Yesterday, Today, and Tomorrow is the title of his book.
Mrs. Barbara Makeda Blake Hanna, for contribution to public service in the field of culture and cultural heritage preservation.
Now, Barbara Blake Makeda Hannah, Barbara Blake Hannah, is a woman of many firsts. She's an author, producer, activist. In 1968, she made history as Jamaica's first black journalist on British television at the startup of Thames TV. And of course, that is in England.
Dr. Lucille Maud Buchanan, for contribution to cultural heritage training and management and pioneering work in vocational rehabilitation for the disabled.
Now here is a lovely lady, Dr. Lucille Buchanan, who's been president of the United Nations Association of Jamaica from 1980 to present. She's founder and first executive director of the Special Olympics for Jamaica and the Caribbean region. Also a consultant to the Secretary General of the United Nations, Dr. Kirk Valdheim, on youth and on the International Year of the Disabled. Dr. Buchanan, who is originally from Stewarttown in Trelawney, attended Westwood High, University of Columbia, and the University of Miami in the United States. She holds a double major, a doctorate degree in education and management and in vocational rehab.
Mr. John Gilbert Biles, for contribution to travel and leisure tourism.
Mr. Biles is the managing director of Choco Caribbean Adventures Group of companies and has been instrumental in the group's expansion into 4 countries, offering over 40 different adventure experiences to its visitors and guests. He's co-founder of the National Cruise Council of Jamaica and serves as its president.
Mr. Walter Bob Charles Clark, for service to the entertainment industry, especially broadcasting.
Walter Bob Clark, as he's known to many, is one of the founders of reggae radio Irie FM. Mr. Clark is well respected among retro party fans and has been hosting his hit radio show, Memories Sundays, on Irie FM for several years. Mr. Clark has had an affinity for music from his childhood days in Highgate St. Mary, where he spent time around his stepfather's sound
Mr. Errol
system.
Eddie Wadsworth Edwards, for contribution to the petroleum industry.
Eddie Edwards is an automotive engineer by profession who has contributed 30 years to the petroleum industry. He has been a member of the Jamaica Gasoline Retailers Association, the JGRA, and served as president between 2006 and 2009. He's also been chairman of the negotiations committee and a board member from 2000. Also
Bishop
a justice of the peace in
Dr.
St.
Ron
Andrew.
Jack Edwards, for contribution to religion and community development.
A very popular local pastor, Bishop Edwards, founded the Lighthouse Worship Center in Spanish Town 33 years ago and is the chief architect behind many transforming social and spiritual activities in that area. He has been Bishop of the Lighthouse Ministries of Jamaica since 2007.
He's also known as the
Mr.
father
Winston
of Jermaine Edwards,
Yellowman
gospel
Foster,
singer.
for contribution to the music industry.
A rousing round of applause for Mr. Winston Yellowman Foster. Yellowman is an internationally acclaimed dancehall DJ, recording artist, and stage performer. He was twice nominated for a Grammy Award for Best Reggae Album, King Yellowman, in 1985, and for Freedom of Speech in 1998.
Well-deserved national
Dr.
honor.
Delroy Alexander Frey, for service to the health sector.
Dr. Frey has served Western Jamaica and the Cornwall Regional Hospital for the past 33 years. He's currently clinical coordinator and has previously held various positions at the hospital, including head of the Accident and Emergency Section, Chief of Surgery, and Senior Medical Officer.
Mr. Lenworth George Fulton, Badge of Honor for Meritorious Service, for dedicated service to the agricultural sector.
Mr. Fulton has been involved in the agriculture industry since 1978 and currently manages the operation of his own farm in St. Anne. a graduate of the Jamaica School of Agriculture and Tuskegee University in the United States. Mr. Fulton obtained a diploma in
Mr.
general
Ruel
agriculture.
Constantine O'Sullivan Gibson for a contribution to the maritime industry.
Mr. Gibson is owner and managing director of the ZARS Equipment and Trucking Company, established in 1982. The company currently employs more than 50 persons, and he's a graduate of the Jamaica Institute of Management and the Maritime Training Institute.
Mr. John Alexander Gazong for contribution to the entertainment and tourism industry.
Mr. Garzong is the Chief Operating Officer and Director of Down Sound Entertainment Limited, producer of Reggae Sumfest since 2016, and Executive Director of Summerfest Productions Limited. He is one of the 5 founding members of Reggae Sumfest. And we see him there collecting his award.
Ms. Novelet Grant for sterling contribution to the Jamaica Constabulary Force.
Ms. Grant is a retired Deputy Commissioner of Police in the Jamaica Constabulary Force between January and April 2017. She led the force as acting Commissioner of Police and has been a career police officer.
Mr. Dermot Hugh Hussey for service to radio broadcasting and the promotion of Jamaican music.
Dermot Hussey is a producer, director, broadcaster, journalist, and voice talent. He's a former music director who co-authored with Malika Lee Whitney the book Bob Marley, Reggae King of the World, and that came out in 1984. A really long and
Mrs.
outstanding
Ruth
career.
Angeline Hussey for outstanding contribution to the hotel industry and tourism.
Ruth Hussey ventured into the world of tourism and hospitality when, along with her family, she acquired the Terra Nova All-Suite Hotel. She spearheaded the team that renovated the property and reopened its doors in 2001, creating an oasis in Kingston. Mrs. Hussey insisted on the best service delivery in every area of the hotel. And of course, she has since changed the image of Terra Nova.
Lieutenant Colonel, retired Desmond Barrington Hutchinson. He's unable to attend for 51 years of dedicated service to the Cadet Force Youth Development. Ms. Joan Andrea Hutchinson for contribution to the cultural arts, in particular the spoken word.
Joan Andrea Hutchinson is a consummate communicator who has been successful as a broadcaster, television producer, presenter, writer, storyteller, actress, motivational speaker, and the list goes on. Popularly referred to in Jamaica as the bumpy head gal. I think she gave herself that moniker.
And of course, true to her name, she has
Mr. Peter
Bantu knots in her
Emmanuel
hair.
Exactly.
Jervis for contribution in the field of civil engineering and the development of Jamaica's physical infrastructure.
Peter Jervis began his career as an apprentice with the Ministry of Construction at the Public Works Department, where he worked in the architectural, quantity surveying, land surveying, and material testing departments, and established Peter Jervis and Associates in June of 1982.
Mrs. Eleanor Bernadette Jones for contribution to the development of environmental management and to civic development.
Mrs. Jones is an international environmental risk management and development professional with significant experience in the fields of disaster risk management, environmental management, and sustainable development. She has worked for over 30 years in academia, applied research, consulting, results-based management processes, and civil society activities.
Ms. Dolores Lawrence for outstanding contribution to the Jamaican diaspora in Ontario, Canada.
Ms. Lawrence is the founder, president, and chief executive officer of Nursing and Homemakers, Inc., the award-winning Canadian healthcare company. She's a daughter of the parish of St. Mary She migrated to Canada and became a registered nurse in 1975. And she's a specialist in the areas of executive leadership, governance, finance, business development, and corporate administration.
Mr. Duquesne for contribution to the printing industry in Jamaica.
Paul Duquesne entered the world of printing when he and his brother joined the staff of United Sales Company as salespersons. They were so impressive in their deliverables that the brothers were asked to buy 50% of the company. Imagine that, Vanessa.
50%.
Yep, they were later asked to buy the remaining 50% and then transformed it into lithographic printers in 1958.
Mr. John Stuart Lopez for contribution to the welfare of persons with disabilities in relation to paraplegic sports in Jamaica.
Mr. Lopez is a veteran swim coach who has dedicated years to actualizing his dream of enabling persons with disabilities in Jamaica to compete in local and international swim meets. At the age of 91, Mr. Lopez still volunteers his service to teach and coach persons with disabilities in swimming. In 1959, he founded a swim program at the Sir John Golding Rehab Center.
Mrs. Grace Ann McLean for contribution to education.
Dr. Grace McLean is the Chief Education Officer in the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information. She first joined the ministry as Deputy Chief Education Officer in 2009, but her illustrious career in education began many years before that. She was a classroom teacher and head of department at the St. Jago High School before spending 14 years at the Heart Trust NTA.
Mrs. Maisie Murdell Miller for service to Jamaica Culinary Arts.
As host of the popular Grace Foods television program Creative Cooking, for over 20 years, Jamaicans at home and abroad welcomed Maisie into their homes. She taught us new and creative ways of preparing tasty meals. Mrs. Miller joined the Grace Kennedy team in 1986 as a food and nutrition specialist and moved up the ranks to become the consumer services manager.
Mr. Livingston Byrne Morrison for service
Maisie
in the field of central banking, in particular finance and administration and the payment system.
Mr. Morrison is the BOJ's Deputy Governor with responsibility for administration and technical services, finance and technology, and payment system and risk management. He joined the BOJ in 1982 and rose through the ranks to Division Chief and then Deputy Governor, and the Deputy Governor appointment was in 2011.
Ms. Beverly Nichols, Badge of Honor for Meritorious Service, for outstanding contribution in healthcare in Jamaica and in New York, the United States of America.
Beverly Nichols is a businesswoman and philanthropist who hails from the parish of Clarendon. She's a registered nurse and the owner and operator of Beverly's Home Health Care Incorporated, which provides services to the New York and Nassau County areas in the United States. In 2010, Ms. Nichols started the Push Start Foundation, a New York-based nonprofit organization focused on making health care accessible to Jamaicans.
Ogilvie for service to the Jamaica Defense Force.
Colonel Ogilvie has served the Jamaica Defense Force since October 1988. In 2016, he was promoted to the rank of colonel. He became the first Jamaican officer to command Her Majesty's Guard in performing public duties at Windsor Castle and Buckingham Palace. He commanded the CARICOM contingent to Haiti and coordinated the relief operations in the aftermath of that January 2010 earthquake.
Mr. Roy Leslie Reed for contribution to entrepreneurship and philanthropy. Ms. Sheila Veronica Rickards for contribution to the cultural arts, in particular the fields of music and dance. Ms. Rickards is unable to attend. Mrs. Obeline Angela Smith-White for contribution to international peace and security as a United Nations peacekeeper.
Oberlin Smith White is a retired superintendent of police who left the Jamaica Constabulary Force in 2017. She was deployed as a United Nations peacekeeper to the African countries of Namibia, Liberia, and Darfur in the Sudan. Mrs. Smith White was charged with the mission to promote peace and reconciliation to the war-torn areas of the countries and has had success in every deployment.
Mr. Raymond Archibald Spencer for service to the Jamaica Fire Brigade. Mr. Vishwanath Daughter Tolan for contribution to sports and community development.
Vishwanath Tolan has given over 15 years of service to sports administration at the national and international levels. In 2016, he was the chef de mission for Team Jamaica to the Games of the 30th Olympiad in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, where he was tasked with the responsibility of attending to the welfare of that 63-member team.
Mr. Howard Constantine Ward for contribution to entrepreneurship and community development.
Big round of applause there for Howard Ward, who started Ward's Power Tools in 1999 as a retail operation. He later carved out a niche in the rental market by supplying heavy-duty generators and other equipment. He's also known as a philanthropist who served as chairman of Providence Infant School and the St. James High School.
Mr. George Granger Weston for service to the tourism industry. The insignia will be collected by his son, Mr. Galvin Weston.
A little bit of information on George Weston. He arrived in Jamaica in 1956 and did so to lead the design and construction of Frenchman's Cove Hotel in Portland. That hotel officially opened in 1962. Eventually becoming the first all-inclusive resort in the Caribbean. Did you know that, Vanessa?
Reverend Renard Alfonso White for committed service to religion and community development.
Reverend White has been a member of the Tower Hill Missionary Church since 1961. He was trained at the Jamaica Theological Seminary and became the pastor of the church in 1981. Before yielding to the call of minister, Reverend White worked in the bauxite industry. His church sits on the border of two volatile communities, which has resulted in him being a mediator on many occasions. And we thank Reverend White for that service.
Mr. Herbert Arthur Zadie for contribution to sports, in particular golf.
I believe so, indeed.
Honorary. Mr. William Bill Lamakia for outstanding contribution to the tourism industry, in particular overseas marketing and tour operation.
William Lamakia is founder of the Mark Travel Corporation and chairman of the Lamakia Enterprises. He began his career as a travel agent in 1963 and just over 10 years later founded both the Mark Travel Corporation and Funjet Vacations. The company sells leisure travel packages to more than 200
Honorary.
destinations.
Mr. John Mullen for outstanding contribution to the tourism industry, in particular overseas marketing and tour operation.
John Mullen began his travel career with United Airlines. He later opened a small travel agency in 1969 specializing in group tours. The group was called Atkinson and Mullen before it was renamed the Apple Leisure Group. Apple Vacations under Apple Leisure Group is one of the largest vacation companies and tour operations in North America. And I believe this is the final award in this segment.
Yes.
The Governor General will have a bit of a break, during which we will be entertained by the Purple String Ensemble. Yes. And I thought something was interesting just now when I saw Anthony Anderson on the presentation platform, and you know, as he's wearing a different hat this morning, having been the head of the JDF, Chief of Defense, before, and now as Police Commissioner. Yeah. And I thought, that's interesting.
Having served both roles. Indeed.
And we continue
the Purple
to
String
see...
Ensemble was formed 3 years ago when founding members Alex Clark, Cahill Rose, Javier Hayden, and Joshua Swaby were attending Kingston College. The group members, currently enrolled at the University of the West Indies, Mona, launched the start of their annual concert series, Suspense and Harmony, at the Kingston College Chapel in August 2018 to assist in financing their tertiary education. The ensemble honed their orchestral skills as members of the National Youth Orchestra of Jamaica and has performed locally and internationally. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome the Purple String Ensemble.
Can you take one guess, Stacey, why they are the Purple String Ensemble?
I don't know if I want to guess, but I think it has something to do with Kingston College, does it?
Indeed. The quintet will be performing, as you heard, Jammin', followed by Wings of a Dove, which is arranged by local violinist Darren Young. That was the Purple String Ensemble. Of course, they're now students of the University of the West Indies. Of course, they've also joined the National Youth Orchestra of Jamaica, where they continue to perform. Khalil Rose, Jovial Hayden, and Joshua Swaby were attending KC, that's Kingston College. The group members host an annual concert series, Suspense and Harmony, at the Kingston College Chapel in August.
And this morning, I believe they're joined by John Christoph Williams, who was on double bass.
Double bass.
Yeah. And they were indeed sounding exquisite this morning, entertaining no less of an audience than the ceremony of investiture and installation 2018 at King's House here in Kingston in Jamaica. It is National Heroes Day, Monday, October 15. And this is, of course, an annual event where we recognize the work that has been done, the contribution that has been made of so many Jamaicans. This morning, 206 of them here at King's House, most of them
His
here
Excellency the Governor
King's House
General,
to
acting in
receive that
accordance
honor.
with the provisions of the National Honours and Awards Act, has been pleased, on the advice of the Prime Minister, to award the Badge of Honour to the following persons with effect from the 6th day of August 2018. The Badge of Honour for Gallantry, Ms. Grace Allen, for an act of courage and heroism in ensuring the safety of the residents at the Walker's Place of Safety in the joint effort to rescue those trapped by fire at the premises.
Grace Allen was a caregiver at the Walker Place of Safety when that fire broke out on the morning of January 15, 2018, as we were mentioning earlier, Vanessa. It must have been chaotic. It must have been scary. And she says that she's honored to be recognized for her role in saving the lives of the wards and credits the quick action and relentless effort of her team for saving as many lives as they did.
And what you hear from these awardees who received the Badge of Honor for Gallantry is that they would do it all over again.
Mr. Kimani Ramon Anderson, for an act of courage and heroism in ensuring the safety of the residents at the Walker's Place of Safety in the joint effort to rescue those trapped by fire at the premises.
And Kimani Anderson would have been a member of that team to which Grace Allen referred on the morning of January 15 this year when that fire broke out. He actually lived next door to the home, but I can imagine that in those moments they would all have united as one
Mrs.
team
Sophia Lorraine
to rescue
Cameron
those
for the
children.
display of bravery in saving the lives of 22 infants during a fire at the neonatal care unit of the Victoria Jubilee Hospital.
Nurse Cameron says she feels honored to have been able to save the lives of the babies under her care. In her own words, she says, "I did not see it as an act of bravery at the time. I just saw myself doing what I was supposed to do, my job. I'm expected to take care of the babies, and that is what I did." And that fire happened on October 23, 2014.
Ms. Verlene Faithy Ann Dowse for the display of bravery in saving the lives of 22 infants during a fire at the neonatal care unit of the Victoria Jubilee Hospital.
Nurse Dowse was also on duty when that same fire broke out at the Victoria Jubilee Hospital on October 23, 2014. It broke out in the neonatal care unit. She feels humbled by the award and recalls that on that fateful night, it was adrenaline that kept her going.
Mr. Javon Keith Lewis for his courageous efforts in rescuing 5 adults and a baby who were trapped inside the Union Street auto store after heavy rains flooded roads and buildings in St. James.
Javon Lewis is actually a fruit vendor in Montego Bay, and he said that when he saw the rising floodwaters and people trapped inside the Union Street auto store,
Ms.
he did
Camille
not have any choice
Arolyn
but to try and save
McIntosh
them.
for the display of bravery in saving the lives of 22 infants during a fire at the neonatal care unit of the Victoria Jubilee Hospital.
Another member of that nursing team, the third person to be honored this morning for bravery in saving the lives of those babies at the Jubilee Hospital. Sister McIntosh hurried to the unit to investigate what was happening, shouted to the security who was on duty to call the fire brigade and maintenance team of the hospital while rushing to the NCU. That's the
Mr.
neonatal
Lloyd
care
Alexander Nelson for his courageous efforts in the rescue of 5 adults and a baby who were trapped inside the Union Street auto store after heavy rains flooded roads and buildings in St. James.
Mr. Nelson is the second of 3 persons to be awarded today for their courageous efforts in saving the 5 persons and the young one who were trapped in the Union Street auto store. He is a barber by profession, and he was just planning on wrapping up the day when they made that valiant effort and saved those lives.
And it really gives you a good feeling to know that you can have ordinary people
Ms.
going about
Selena
their business.
Reed for an outstanding act of
see a need
courage
and
and
just jump in and
heroism
do what they
when
have
she
to.
alerted other children and ensured the safety of the residents at the Walker's place of safety in the joint effort to rescue those trapped by fire at the premises.
So Selena was actually asleep and was awakened by the extreme heat in her dorm and quickly jumped into action to get others out of harm's way. The heat from the fire was so intense that she put her hand on her head to shield it, and her hair, she says, came off in her hands. Imagine that, Vanessa. She said she woke up the house mother and ran next door to get help from a neighbor who joined the rescue effort.
Mr.
it's
Arstel
heartwarming to see
St.
one of the
Joy
wards
for his
getting an
courageous
award.
efforts in the rescue of 5 adults and a baby who were trapped inside the Union Street auto store after heavy rains flooded roads and buildings in St. James.
Aristel St. Joy is Haitian by birth and lives in Montego Bay. On November 22 last year, when he saw that his friend Javon Lewis needed help after swimming across the flooded roadway to help 6 persons stranded in the Union Street auto store, he felt compelled to help. He was particularly moved when he saw that a baby was involved. He says that it felt good to help.
And now,
And
the
he
badge
also
of
said
honor
that
for
as a
meritorious
teenager, he helped to
service.
save one person
Ms.
from drowning
Jacinth
in
Veronica
Haiti.
Baker for community
And one of
service.
the gentlemen actually almost lost their lives in the attempt.
And here we see Jacinth Baker, who earned the moniker mayor in her community many years ago as a result of her influence and interest in the well-being of others. She collects and stores bags of groceries and toiletries for senior citizens in need who pass by from time to time
Mrs.
asking for help.
Georgia Eloise Marina Bernard for service in the areas of bilateral cooperation and development, in particular at the Embassy of Jamaica in Belgium.
During her long and distinguished tenure at the Secretariat of the African, Caribbean and Pacific Group of States, and subsequently at the Embassy of Jamaica and Mission to the European Union in Brussels, Mrs. Bernard worked tirelessly and assiduously to further Jamaica's goals in the areas of bilateral cooperation and development. Among her many achievements is the expansion of the EU Erasmus Scholarship to include non-EU countries.
Dr. Lisa E. Bromfield for contribution to the development of the pharmaceutical profession.
Dr. Bromfield is an exemplary pharmacist, motivator and people builder who has contributed in various ways to nation building. She has been certified by the Ministry of Health in HIV voluntary counseling and testing. She is a member of the pioneering group of pharmacists to be certified by the American Pharmacist Association as a trainer of trainers for administration of vaccines in Jamaica and the Caribbean.
Mr. Philbert Emmanuel Brown for public service.
Now, Mr. Brown has served in the Ministries of Water, Land and the Environment, as well as local government and community development. He has served in several capacities, including the Director for Planning and Information Systems, Senior Director for Emergency Management and Water Services, among others.
And it's good to see members of the public service especially being recognized. I mean, in many instances, you have persons who work their entire professional careers, working tirelessly and under some circumstances that may not always be favorable. So it's very good to see that they can be recognized in this way.
Mrs. Lorna Ethella Cohol for service to the education sector and community service.
Mrs. Cohol is a Justice of the Peace in St. James, a motivational speaker, and a member of the Hanover Diabetic Support Group. She's a member of the Optimist Club and the Parent Teachers Association of the Montego Bay High School for Girls. She began her sojourn as a teacher at the Glendeville Primary and Junior High School in 1997, where she served for 22 years before moving on to Mount Alvernia Preparatory, Hosanna Prep, and Bethel Infant Schools.
Mr. Horace Anthony Cottrell for service in the field of engineering and public service.
Horace Cottrell began his service to the government of Jamaica as an executive engineer in 1982 with the Ministry of Construction. He remained with the Ministry of Transport and Works until 2001 when he joined the newly established National Works Agency. He has been seconded to several major national projects during his tenure.
Mr. Audley Ray Davidson for service as a music educator.
As you heard, Mr. Davidson is a music educator, organist, and chorale director. His musical skill was honed while he was a student in St. James, where he studied at the Marguerite Vernon and Ivy Cummings Music Studio. This he continued to do after moving on to Sam Sharp Teachers College under the tutelage of renowned organist
Raymond
and choral
Dejeune
director John
for service
Binns.
as technical officer in the area of roads and bridges construction for 41 years. The medal will be collected by his son, Mr. Orlando Dejeune.
Roland Dejeune began his career in the construction engineering field as a draftsman in 1972, having completed his secondary education at Kingston Technical High School. In 1997, he joined the government service at the Public Works Department as a temporary inspector and worked his way to the rank of assistant superintendent. Some of his special projects include the Comfort Hall Bridge in Manchester, Alligator Church Bridge in Portland, the Banbury Bridge in St. Catherine, Cassia Park, and
Ms.
Queensborough Bridges as well.
Fuller for public service.
Ms. Fuller joined the government service in May of 1976 as a receptionist with the Jamaica Defence Force. She later moved to the Finance and Administration branch in the Police Department at the Ministry of National Security, where she worked as a payroll clerk an accounts payables officer, and later as payments
Mr.
manager.
Harold James
It's quite a gate
Lindo
she has
for
there.
public service.
Shows her passion.
Harold Lindo worked in the finance and administration branch of the police department in the Ministry of National Security, and he's done so since 1976, where he
Ms.
displayed
Yvonne
unwavering
Dolores
commitment.
Lowe for dedicated service in the field of physiotherapy.
Yvonne Lowe has served the field of physiotherapy for 39 years with a passion and commitment to her duties, which has earned her the admiration of her peers and patients alike. She's currently the head of the physiotherapy department at the University Hospital of the West Indies.
Ms. Claudette May Ramdani for public service, in particular the financial sector.
Ms. Ramdani has been serving in the banking industry for over 35 years, having started in 1983. She has worked in various capacities, including administration, operations, lending, branch management, and risk management. Her work has enabled many Jamaicans to improve
Ms.
and
Elizabeth
restructure
Reed
their
for
financial
exemplary
affairs.
community service.
Ms. Reed, popularly known as Lynn, has worked as an indoor agent as well as a supervisor in both general and local government elections since 1976. She's widely known in her community of Olympic Way and has spent over 40 years involved in various community service and individual projects to help the elderly, shut-ins, and the needy.
Mrs. Stephanie Viola Reed for service to education.
Stephanie Reed began her career as a classroom teacher in 1977 at the Lucy Primary School. Her obvious tenacity and passion for teaching would eventually earn her the position of vice principal in 2007 and principal in 2016. Mrs. Reed loves working with children and has a passion for improving literacy, resulting in her serving the community through her involvement with the Jamaica Foundation for Lifelong
Mrs.
Learning.
Judith Angela Richards for dedicated service to education and particularly to children with special needs.
Now, Mrs. Richards continues to be an active member of her community, and she's a board member of the Jamaica Down Syndrome Foundation. She is also a parent counselor. Mrs. Richards started her career as an educator at the Racecourse Primary School in Clarendon. She would go on to teach at the Belfield Secondary, Bustamante High, and Vere Technical schools in the parish. And she's a proud graduate of the Mico University College.
Mr. Isaiah Emmanuel Sims for long and dedicated service to law enforcement oversight.
Isaiah Sims has served in the public sector for 26 years. He joined the Independent Commission of Investigation, INDICOM, in 2011 and moved up the ranks as a senior investigator with the commission. His passion, drive, and leadership
Mr. Lincoln
capabilities saw him being
Vivian
promoted
Simpson
to chief
for
investigator in
contribution
2015.
in the areas of road construction and the maintenance of public buildings.
Lincoln Simpson joined the government service in October 1971, and through his hard work, diligence, commitment, and a determination for excellence, he moved up the ranks, attaining the post of superintendent in 2001. 4 decades of service to the government and
Ms.
people
Margaret
of Jamaica.
Rose Stevenson for dedicated public service.
Another applause there for Ms. Stevenson. She has served in the field of human resource at the Ministries of Industry, Commerce, Agriculture and Fisheries, as well as the Ministry of National Security. She has played a pivotal role with her perceptiveness as a human resource practitioner, which transcended many
Ms.
boundaries.
Audrey Walters for service and advocacy on behalf of Jamaicans in the diaspora in Canada.
Audrey Walters is past president of the Black Business and Professional Association in Canada. She most recently served as vice president of the Jamaica Canadian Association, and in 2010 she underwent major neurological surgery, but has remained active in service even as she continues to deal with residual health issues. I tell you, Vanessa, when I heard this story, I'm like, wow, this is somebody who is dedicated to service regardless of what is happening, even in her own personal life.
She just keeps going.
Mr. Michael Sylvester Young, for contribution to the Montego Bay Red Cap Porters Association for the past 51 years.
51 years of service from Michael Young, who joined the Montego Bay Red Cap Porters Association when the organization started in 1967. He was one of a team of Jamaicans who would end up being considered the true face of tourism, as he would be among the first to interact with guests who arrive at the then Montego Bay Airport. As an unofficial ambassador of Jamaica for 51 years, Mr. Young provided courteous and professional service to innumerable visitors.
And I'm sure many of our return visitors or repeat
Mrs.
visitors look
Sidna
forward to seeing him.
Stasian Amos, for service in the field of computer programming.
And Sidna Amos is the first of 29 Jamaicans who will be receiving the Badge of Honor for long and faithful service here at King's House this morning. She started at the Department of Statistics, later renamed the Statistical Institute of Jamaica, Statin, in 1979, and served as clerical officer before becoming a computer programmer and systems analyst
Mr.
and
Donald
operations
Ashford
manager.
Atkins, for over 30 years of service to the Hunts Bay Division as a district constable.
District Constable Donald Atkins was appointed in 1988 and has been stationed at the Hunts Bay Police Station in the Crime Investigation Branch office for 30 years. He has remained in good standing with an excellent report during his tenure. Mr. Atkins is proud of his ability to support young officers who are posted
Ms.
in
Joy
their development
Marie
in the
Bailey,
force.
for service in the field of education and civic development.
Joy Marie Bailey served the Ministry of Education as Assistant Bursar, then Bursar at Marcus Garvey Technical, St. Hilda's, and York Castle High Schools, and all of that between 1986 and her retirement in 2017. In 2007, she was appointed President of the Bursars Association
Mr. Donovan
of Jamaica.
Paul Dakers, for long and faithful service to the music industry.
Now, if you tune in to RJR on a Saturday afternoon, even now, you will hear Donovan Dakers, who is a household name in Jamaica. He's given outstanding contribution to the music industry locally and internationally. For 16 years, he worked at the JBC, Jamaica Broadcasting
Mr. Delroy
Corporation.
Anthony Davis, for sterling service to the District Constable Association and 37 years of service to the Kingston Eastern Division.
D.C. Davis was posted to the Kingston Eastern Division in 1980, where he has served with distinction for 38 years. He also does some work as a
Mr.
counselor
Reuben Lloyd Grant,
in the Victim
for
Support
37
Unit.
years of public service.
Mr. Grant has made key contributions to the field of auditing during his tenure in the public sector. He distinguished himself as a high performer and a consummate professional at the Passport, Immigration and Citizenship Agency, PICA, as a summer worker there in the 1980s.
Mr. Christopher Lloyd Hamilton, for faithful service to the Jamaica Defense Force. This will be collected by Miss Iris Denny.
Christopher Hamilton has been employed to the JDF since 1980, where he started as a store clerk. Since 2014, he has worked as a records officer with the JDF and received training in customer service and supervisory management. Ms. Denny is collecting his award, of which he says he is very proud and proud of the work that he has been able to do over the years.
Ms. Jean Esther Hitula, for faithful and dedicated service to the public sector.
Ms. Hitula started her decades-long contribution to the public sector as a telephone operator at the Spanish Town Hospital in 1982. She then moved on to the Human Resources Department, where she served for 12 years. She transferred to the Ministry of National Security and Justice, where she served there for 21 years, finding fulfillment
Mr.
in being able
Ralston
to
Hugh
interact with
Johnson
internal
for
and
50
external
years
clients.
of service to tax administration.
And a loud cheer going up there for Ralston Johnson, who started at the then Income Tax Department, fresh out of Calabar High School. For 50 years, he worked across a range of sections within the agency, which would become eventually Tax Administration Jamaica. He's currently with a Revenue Appeals decision where he hears appeals against tax
Ms.
assessments.
Ivel Veronica Carr McLean for service to community development.
And we continue with the badge of honor for meritorious service with Ivel Veronica Carr McLean, who has rendered 35 years of outstanding service to community development. During her tenure at the Social Development Commission, she helped to change the lives of many young people.
Ms. Charmaine Annette Lawrence for service to the Portland Municipal Corporation.
Ms. Lawrence has given 28 years of valuable service to the Portland Municipal Corporation. She is a patient care assistant at the Portland Infirmary, where she has been helping to care for and support the many patients there. She has participated in psychiatric training courses and has learned to interact with patients during group therapy sessions.
Mr. Carlos Jorquera for service to the diaspora in Chile. The medal is being collected by his son, Pablo Jorquera.
So here is the son of Carlos Jorquera, born in Santiago, Chile, served as Jamaica's honorary consul to Chile since October 2007.
Ms. Althea Eileen McFarlane for service to community development.
Althea McFarlane has given 35 years of valuable service to Jamaica at the community level. She has served in various departments at the Social Development Commission before becoming a senior accounting officer at the agency. In February this year, she received the Jamaica Civil Service Association Long Service Award and is also the recipient of the Accounting Officer of the Year Award from the
for service to the
SDC.
Portland Municipal Corporation.
Now, Mr. Mackenzie began his career some 36 years ago at the Portland Municipal Corporation as a porter. He served in various departments before becoming a patient care assistant at the Portland Infirmary, where he has worked for 26 years. In 2015, he was honored by the parish for his dedicated years of service.
Mrs. Molly McNeil Needham for 42 years of dedicated service to education.
Molly Needham has served as the Vice Principal of the Leith Infant and All-Age School in St. James for 42 years. She has received numerous awards and appreciation certificates for her dedication to the teaching profession and involvement in the 4-H clubs. Mrs. Needham developed several plans relating to the sanitation of the Leith Infant and All-Age School and is the recipient of an award for starting a recycling project at the
Mr.
institution.
Renville Colin Nicholson for service, tourism, and community service.
Mr. Nicholson began his career in the tourism industry in 1960, and over the years he has worked in the cruise shipping industry and at various hotels on the North Coast and the Caribbean. He is the food and beverage manager at the Sea
Mr.
Garden Beach
Neville
Resort in
Eulin
Montego Bay.
Parkins for 25 years of service to the Electoral Office of Jamaica.
Now, Mr. Parkins joined the EOJ as a returning officer in 1993, and in 2000 he became a zonal manager for 4 regions. He has coordinated resources for national and by-elections, as well as other projects such as the enumeration of electors and residence re-verification.
Ms. Beverly Anne-Marie Prince for service to the Kingston and St. Andrew Municipal Corporation.
Beverly Prince is a well-known councillor of the Cassia Park community. She has served 4 terms between 1998 and 2018. She has pioneered infrastructural upgrades in her division, where she focused on the removal of zinc fences in the community. And in 2013, she was instrumental in the building of a community library and launching of a scholarship fund that helped students with textbooks
Mrs.
and
Ida
bursaries.
Roden, for over 40 years of service in the field of education.
Ida Roden has given over 40 years of dedicated service and former principal of the Farm Primary and Junior High School in Montego Bay. She has worked tirelessly in advancing numeracy and literacy programs among the nation's children. She has received numerous awards and many tributes for her work and is an active member of her church.
Mrs. Lena Joyce Russell, for 40 years of long and faithful service to education.
Here we have another 40-year veteran. Her contribution to the education system began at the tender age of 17 when she graduated from Shortwood Teachers College. She credits her love for education and youth development to her mentor and role model, Miss Reva Latty, her common entrance and Sunday school teacher.
Mr. Lindell Christopher Tibby, for 30 years of service to the Electoral Office of Jamaica.
Mr. Tibby began his career as a clerical officer in 1988 at the Electoral Office of Jamaica, the EOJ. During his tenure, he served as a registration clerk through 7 general elections and 6 local government elections before retiring in July 2017. He was born and raised in Trenchtown, and he attended Trenchtown Comprehensive High School in Kingston.
For service to Justice Administration.
Pauline Webb Beverly started her career in the public sector at the Kingston Public Hospital in 1963, serving in the areas of accounts and personnel before moving on to the Ministry of Health. She was transferred to the Ministry of Home Affairs in 1967 and served in that ministry through the various name changes until her retirement in 2010. We're talking about 55 years of service in the public service.
For service to the field of labor, industrial relations.
Mr. Wedderburn served in the Ministry of Labor and Social Security for 41 years, having moved through the ranks from labor officer to chief director before retiring as divisional head of industrial relations and allied services. At the ministry, he spearheaded major programs including the U.S. and Canadian farm
Mrs.
work
Anne
programs.
Odette Wheatle, for service in the field of nursing.
Mrs. Wheatle has worked for over 30 years at the Natal Memorial Hospital. She served with compassion and has a firm yet caring manner, always going the extra mile for her patients and their families. She has developed a reputation as a caring and supportive person. We know how important that can be in the medical services, that calm and caring
Mr.
persona.
Neville Paul Whitaker, for service to the Kingston and St. Andrew Municipal Corporation.
Neville Whitaker has been a dedicated councillor in the Kingston and St. Andrew Municipal Corporation for more than 10 years. He joined the municipality on September 19, 1998, and has been nominated 5 times as the councillor of the Gordontown East Rural St. Andrew Division.
Ms.
He's also an
Rachel
educator by
Keziah
profession.
White, for 45 years of service in the fields of education and tax administration.
Rachel White spent 45 years in the public service, contributing specifically to education and tax administration. Her 25 years of service to tax administration was most impactful in the establishment of the Tax Appeals Department. She served as appeals manager and provided leadership in the resolution of disputes between revenue commissioners and taxpayers.
Mrs. Margaret Winsome Wilson Blake, for dedicated service to the field of pharmacy. Mr. Michael Blake, her husband, will collect.
Mrs. Blake served the University Hospital of the West Indies as a pharmacist for 32 years. She has also participated in the training of pharmacy technicians and supervised pharmacy interns and pharmacists in the profession. There we see her husband, obviously proud of her, collecting her award.
A very proud
Ms.
Mr. Blake this
Sylvia
morning.
Elvira Sadler, for 37 years of service to the Department of Correctional Services, in particular, Probation Service.
Sylvia Sadler is known for expertise in the supervision of offenders serving non-custodial sentences. She has also played a significant role in the review of the Parole Act, Conditional Release Manual, and the reclassification of the probation service. Ms. Sadler has been instrumental in the transformation of that probation service.
Mrs. Patricia Savage Dallas, for 35 years of service to the St. Andrew North Division as a district constable.
Patricia Savage Dallas has served the St. Andrew North Division for over 35 years, performing exceptional policing duties at the Gordontown Police Station. And for the last 9 years, Constable Savage Dallas has been working as a secretary of the Jamaica Constabulary Welfare Fund. She's also very active in her church, as she ought to be, Vanessa.
35 years of service, though. You see people grow up before you when you spend this long in your position.
Definitely. And you imagine what that contribution has done in those communities. It really is heartening to see persons who give that kind of service quietly, consistently, and with that kind of impact, getting recognition for their work. We are at the end of another segment of these awards this morning, this awards ceremony. And you would have seen while the awards were being handed out, we call them markers, but these are members of the JDF
and inspired
who mark the place along that walkway
her career
where
over
the
a relatively
recipients
few years.
go. If you
In
notice,
addition to
there is a
wooing listeners with her
progression
vocals,
that they take
Etana
in
also
terms of
proudly
stepping
dons the
forward so
hat
that
of
the movement is
songwriter.
seamless. Vanessa,
The singer has
one
boldly
of
struck a
those
chord with the
markers, we
masses,
own her.
one song
We
at a time.
claim her
Ladies and
as
gentlemen,
a former
please
member
welcome
of the Jamaica
Etana
Information Service
performing
team.
I
She
Rise.
is Second Lieutenant Shelley Ann Irving of the 1st Jamaica Regiment, of whom we are very proud.
Absolutely.
She spent a little more than 3 years in the Public Relations and Marketing Department at the JIS and is now based at Up Park Camp, performing a multiplicity of roles, including internal security operations in support of the Jamaica Constabulary Force. And now we hear the opening strains singing I Rise, Etana, for your listening pleasure.
I was born strong. I was made for this. See, I met so many hard times when I thought I couldn't make it. See, I've had my trials when my pillows dried my eyes. Then the morning came and my wings took flight. I rise. See, I'm hurting but not broken. Down but I won't die. I rise. Soon I will reach the sky and still I rise. Some say it's a mystery how I still believe when in spite of all I've been through I could still push the wheel. See, I have a power they can't see with their eyes. It's a little thing called faith that makes broken wings fly. I rise. See, I'm hurting but not broken. defies the odds and still fights on to win. I can take it. I can make it. See, I'm hurting but not broken, down but I won't die. I rise, soon I will reach the sky. Soon I will reach the sky. Soon I will reach the sky. And still I Thank you.
By Etana, and says she wrote that song, Vanessa, at a time when she was going through a really rough patch in her life, and uses it not only to remind herself but also to encourage others to build that inner strength. I heard one line of that song that said she has something that people can't see, and that thing is called faith that's able to make broken wings fly. Just beautiful, beautiful song that inspires and motivates, and I'm sure many persons here this morning receiving awards would act on that kind of faith, because you need that kind of faith in order to sustain.
I Rise is actually the name of her 2014 album, and Jamaica and the rest of the world knows Etana primarily for her 2008 Wrong Address song.
Her repertoire is quite extensive, though.
It is.
Vanessa.
It is.
We know she's a daughter of August Town in St. Andrew, and is not only a singer but songwriter and an activist who says she tries to transform lives through music.
And her music is inspirational.
Regulations made under Section 7 of the National Honors and Awards Act, has been pleased to award the Medal of Honor with effect from the 23rd of May 2018 to the following members of the uniformed services. The Medal of Honor for Gallantry, Jamaica Defense Force, Corporal Malachi Delroy Davis, for rendering instantaneous assistance to Constable Leighton Hanson on Friday the 28th of April 2017, who was disarmed and shot at point-blank range. Corporal Davis engaged the aggressor and offered aid to the visibly wounded police officer. He displayed selflessness and courage in the face of adversity.
Now talk about bravery. Corporal Malachi Davis is Kingston bred. He's a St. Catherine resident and a 15-year veteran of the Jamaica Defense Force. Corporal Davis currently works at the JDF headquarters coordinating operations. In recounting the day, he says he sees his valiant effort as the normal routine of a soldier to protect citizens from criminal elements.
Corporal Omar Seymour Wilson, for rendering instantaneous assistance to Constable Leighton Hanson on Friday, the 28th of April 2017, who was disarmed and shot at point-blank range. Corporal Wilson engaged the aggressor and offered aid to the visibly wounded police officer. He displayed selflessness and courage in the face of adversity.
Corporal Wilson is from Morant Bay in St. Thomas, a father of two, and has spent 16 years as a member of the JDF, currently stationed with the Combat Support Battalion, and said that he doesn't feel like a hero at all. Says it's a soldier's nature and training to act in the defense of citizens.
The Jamaica Constabulary Force. Woman Inspector Alison Ruth Grant Johnson, for displaying extraordinary bravery in confronting gunmen in defense of her family on Tuesday, the 26th of September 2017, when her daughter was held at gunpoint. Inspector Grant Johnson drew her service pistol and contended in a shootout with the gunmen, after which she discovered that she had a gunshot wound to her upper right arm.
And in this instance, I am sure that not only her training came very, very useful at that point, but her mother's instinct chipped in. I mean, 2 of her 4 children were also hurt in that incident. She's a 21-year veteran of the Jamaica Constabulary Force. And though other members of her family were home, luckily they were not injured. Her
The
mother
Medal of
also passed
Honor
on
for
shortly
Meritorious
after that incident.
Service, Jamaica Defence
Inspector
Force.
Grant Johnson is also
Major
a woman of
retired
faith. She says
Howard
she prayed
Lawson
to have
Barrett.
all her fears removed so she could help to defend her family.
And now we're moving into the Medal of Honor for Meritorious Service, seeing Major Howard Lawson Barrett receiving his award for 21 years of meritorious service.
Major Maxwell Gordon.
Major Gordon has been part of the force for the past 16 years. He joined in 2002 on August 7, and he's currently an instructor at the Caribbean Institute of Professional Military Education.
And Major Gordon would be one of 13 members of the JDF who will be receiving a Medal of Honor for Meritorious Service this morning.
Major Anthony Andrew Gregory.
Major Gregory, having served for 17 years in the JDF, receiving his recognition this morning.
He's also a past student of Glenmuir. I'm sure the Glenmuir alumni would be happy to hear that. And he has served for 15 years with the JDF Air Wing.
Major Asian Clayton Prescott.
Major Prescott joined the force in September 2002. He says on the 30th, he's acting commanding officer of the JDF Coast Guard, and he has been in that position since August. You see him there collecting his award.
Major Johan St. George Simpson.
A proud past student of Clarendon College. He joined the JDF on July 6, 2002. He's a training major for the 3rd Jamaica Regiment, and he lectures at the Special Staff College. He just completed a Master
Major
of
Silton
Science.
Mycalvo Thompson.
And Major Thompson,
I believe he's a Woolmerian.
he is a proud Woolmerian. He joined the force in 2002. He's currently commandant of the Caribbean Military Aviation School. And he's also a pilot, Stacy.
Congratulations.
Major Rohan Ricardo Rogers.
Recently promoted from the post of captain. And he's a Kingston Technical graduate.
27 years of service.
Yes, he joined the force February 1991 as a soldier.
Warrant Officer Class 1, retired, Leon David Anthony Bennett.
Warrant Officer Bennett has served for 33 years in the Jamaica Defence Force. Now retired, but still being recognized for his service.
Warrant Officer Class 1, Edwin Francis Oliver Brown.
Warrant Officer Brown has served the force for 26 years. We see him there collecting his award, his Medal of Honor for meritorious service.
Warrant Officer Class 1, retired, Byron Lee Clark.
Warrant Officer Clark served the JDF for 21 years and is one of 13 members of that organization being recognized for meritorious service. A total of 72 medals of honor will be handed out for meritorious service among the uniformed groups. The JDF, the Jamaica
Warrant
Constabulary
Officer Class
Force,
1, Jermaine Jeremy Johnson.
the Department of Correctional Services, the Jamaica Fire Brigade, will see them come up to receive those medals of honor this morning. Warrant Officer Jermaine Johnson, having served the JDF for 21 years as well.
Warrant Officer Class 1, Michael Anthony Moulton.
Officer Moulton has served the force for 31 years, going on 32. We see him there collecting his award. We see a pleasant exchange there between himself and the Governor General.
Warrant Officer Class 1, Gillette Rose Palmer.
The lone female member of the Jamaica Defense Force who is being recognized with a Medal of Honor for meritorious service this morning. Warrant Officer Class 1 Gillette Rose Palmer for 27 years of service to the Jamaica Defense Force. We'll now move into Medals of Honor for Jamaica Constabulary Force members.
Jamaica Constabulary Force. Superintendent of Police Frederick Augustus Duncan.
Superintendent of Police Frederick Duncan.
Superintendent
served
of
for
Police
38
Barrington
years.
Marvin Reed.
Superintendent Barrington Reed receiving his Medal of Honor for 40 years of meritorious service. He is one of 22
Deputy
members of the
Superintendent
police force who are being
Cecil
recognized
Delroy
this morning.
Beckford.
Overall, there are 72 uniformed officers who are receiving badges of honor for meritorious service.
Deputy Superintendent of Police Alfred Bennett.
Deputy Superintendent Alfred Bennett has served the JCF for 37 years. Looking resplendent in his uniform this morning. We heard the applause going up, no doubt from his family and friends who are here to support. And that has always been something that you look forward to, that kind of celebration from
Deputy
family and friends who
Superintendent of
support.
Police Marcia Angela Brown.
Receiving a national honor or award is really not just for yourself, but for your family, for your company, for your community.
And here we have another female in the lot collecting her medal.
Deputy Superintendent of Police Gosford Hugh Lester Cole.
DSP Cole has served for 39 years. And before him, we saw DSP Marcia Brown, who served for 34 years.
Deputy Superintendent of Police, Cadian Lorenzo Faulkner.
Shouts there for DSP Faulkner, who has served for 37 years in the Jamaica Constabulary Force.
And as I just mentioned, I mean, it's always fascinating to hear family members go wild.
It really is an event for them.
It is.
Some of
Deputy
them travel
Superintendent of
from all the
Police,
way in the
Everton
west, some from
Emmanuel
abroad,
Grant.
to share in this moment with their family members.
Of course. Especially for these uniformed groups who work tirelessly, odd hours, public
Indeed.
holidays, weekends, morning, noon, and night in some instances.
When we are asleep, they
Exactly.
are there on the road,
And
ensuring that
their
we're
families really do play a pivotal role in supporting them in order to deliver the kind of service that this country needs.
safe. So this
Deputy
award is
Superintendent
sort of for them
Police,
as
It
well.
Donna
is.
Marie Harris Jones.
It is for them as much as it is for their families.
Indeed.
No doubt many of these uniformed officers have had to make sacrifices that would have impacted their families. I would imagine that there may even be school events that they don't end up attending, and in some instances not being there with their families as much as they would want.
Yes.
Deputy Superintendent of Police, Oral George Harrison.
This is where we highlight that family support is absolutely integral for the success of these officers.
And look at Deputy Superintendent Harrison here, serving in the JCF for 38 years. I mean, that is a feat of no mean order, and I'm sure he would have had to lean many times on the support of his family, immediate family, even extended
Deputy
family.
Superintendent of Police, Melvin Donovan Carr.
Deputy Superintendent Melvin Carr, another 38-year veteran of the police force.
Deputy Superintendent of Police, Neville Anthony Knight.
Deputy Superintendent of Police Neville Anthony Wright has served in the Jamaica Constabulary Force for over 33 years. We see him there exchanging words with Sir Patrick Allen and a handshake.
And at the end of these presentations,
Deputy Superintendent of Police, Clinton St. Patrick Moore.
we will move into the march past of the Guard of Honor, and then we will end these awards presentations with the national anthem. So we are in fact in the last segment of the 2018 ceremony of investiture and installation of national honors and awards.
Deputy Superintendent of Police, Conroy Cuthbert Reed.
DSP Reed has served the Jamaica Constabulary Force for over 40 years. We see him there collecting his award. All right. More words being exchanged.
Deputy Superintendent of Police, Julian Isilda Rowe.
Deputy Superintendent Rowe has served the Jamaica Constabulary Force for 31 years. She is one of 22 officers who are being recognized for their service with a Medal of Honor for meritorious service, at these honors and awards presentations this morning.
Deputy Superintendent of Police Frank Nathaniel Smith.
DSP Frank Smith has served the constabulary force for some 40 years. Sometimes one wonders what they're
Deputy
exchanging, what they're saying
Superintendent of
in their
Police
exchange
Ruth Watson.
on the podium. We see another female collecting her medal.
She's one of 5 women in the
Deputy
JCF
Superintendent
collecting
of
an award
Police
this morning
Dennis
for meritorious
Lloyd
service.
Williams.
DSP Williams has served in the Jamaica Constabulary Force for 40 long years.
Deputy Superintendent of Police Maudlin Maud Williams.
There we see the 5th and final female member of the Jamaica Constabulary Force receiving her Medal of Honor for meritorious service. We're now moving on to the Department of Correctional Services, where 23 officers are receiving
the Department of Correctional Services.
medals of honor.
Superintendent B. Leslie Campbell.
Superintendent Leslie Campbell has served the Department of Correctional Services for 35 years, and I'd just like to publicly say thank you to the members of the Jamaica Information Service, the production teams from
Superintendent B. Joycelyn Eugenie Roach Spencer.
production departments, television, radio, and public relations and marketing, who have done quite a bit of work to support this event, who have done the research to gather the information so that we are able to provide you with this kind of content that gives you a better feel and a better appreciation for the service and for the work that these recipients, these awardees, are being recognized for.
The groundwork
Assistant
starts
Superintendent
months
Gary
before
Norman McGowan.
the event on Heroes Day.
It does. And they are here along with the JDF and members of the Office of the Prime Minister, those teams who are here in the planning and execution of this event. So kudos to the Jamaica Information Service, led by their Chief Executive Officer, Donna Marie Rowe, and Deputy CEO, Enthros Campbell.
Assistant Superintendent Beverly Joy O'Mealy. The medal will be collected by her sister, Ms. Dorrit O'Mealy.
Assistant Superintendent O'Mealy has served the Department of Correctional Services for over 31 years.
And here we see her sister collecting that award on her behalf.
And of course, the Department of Correctional Services are the members who work with
Assistant Superintendent
incarcerated
Dennis
persons.
Carl Waysome.
Assistant Superintendent Waysome has been with the DCS for 27 years, at least 27 years.
Overseer David Livingston Bowie.
Overseer Bowie has been with the DCS for at least 28 years. You see him there in his black, collecting his medal.
Overseer Devon Roy Dixon.
Overseer Dixon has worked with the Department of Correctional Services for 28 years. And as we mentioned, he is one of 23 members of that department who will be receiving an award this morning. We mentioned earlier that this is the final segment of awards presentations here at King's House this morning. We do see that we now have overcast skies.
Roy Headley Green.
We hope the heavens will hold up so that we can conclude these presentations this morning. The temperature has improved tremendously. It's a lot cooler than it was before. No sign of rain yet, but it's impending.
Last year, the same thing happened where we had clear skies, and as soon as the event ended, we had our showers of rain. It is as if the heavens were waiting for the event to end.
Your memory is very good, Vanessa, because it did hold up just long enough for us to finish.
Overseer Everton Uriah Lewis. Overseer Laurie Everton McFarlane.
Overseer McFarlane is another 34-year veteran of the Department of Correctional Services.
Overseer Donald Anthony Parker. Overseer, now Superintendent B, Merrick Anthony Wong.
A promotion there for Overseer Wong, who has served 31 years in the Department of Correctional Services. A recent promotion, I gather.
And now the Jamaica Fire Brigade. Assistant Superintendent Barrington Churchill Marshall. Assistant Superintendent Livingston Alexander Morgan.
Assistant Superintendent Morgan, a 28-year veteran of the Jamaica Fire Brigade, receiving his Medal of Honor for meritorious service. He is one of 14 members of the Jamaica Fire Brigade who will be so honored this morning.
Deputy Superintendent Windell Chesterfield Patterson.
Deputy Superintendent Patterson has been with the Jamaica Fire Brigade for 23 years. Note that there is a difference between the uniform being worn by the Jamaica Fire Brigade and that worn by the Department of Correctional Services earlier. The DCS officers have a green seam, whereas our JDF personnel do not.
District Officer Francisco Alexander Bennett.
That would have been DCS, Department of Correctional Services.
District Officer Bennett there, a 28-year veteran of the Jamaica Fire Brigade.
District Officer George Brown.
District Officer Brown has been a member of the Jamaica Fire Brigade for 30 years.
If I do the math, that would mean he joined in 1983
You're
or
better
88.
than I do not do math. As a rule, I don't.
Yes, the year is 1988, 30 years ago.
Okay, very good. I would
District
not attempt
Officer
that.
Lawrence Wesley Campbell.
District Officer Campbell, 28 years as a member of the Jamaica Fire Brigade. These men and women of the Fire Brigade are well trained to international standards.
District Officer Lennington Ray Jones.
I'm always fascinated
District
by
Officer Dennis Martin Lemon.
what is obviously very deliberate movements of the persons in uniformed groups who go up to receive these awards, particularly the Jamaica Fire Brigade and Correctional Services, who hold their staff in one hand. Is it a staff?
Yeah.
In the
Yes,
left hand.
in the left hand.
And then the movement to salute with the right hand.
District Officer Marlon Ricardo Lewis.
District Officer Lewis has served the Jamaica Fire Brigade for approximately 21 years. And the very attire of these uniformed groups, the uniform itself commands respect.
It does, and no doubt they would be esteemed members of their communities, respected, often called on
District
to answer
Officer
questions and to
Gerald
For
Mackenzie.
mediation
exactly.
and other duties. We are almost at the end of today's ceremony with just about 3 more names to go. We were talking about the uniformed groups. Uniformed groups, especially in our school, Stacey, is so critical.
Because it teaches discipline.
It
and
does.
I mean, there's so much to be gained when young
District
people
Officer Fitzroy Seymour Thomas.
get involved in these groups. They learn discipline. There is respect for authority. There is the importance of giving service. I mean, there really is a huge benefit to becoming a
There
part
is.
of a uniformed group, and we would encourage every parent of young children to encourage your
Yes.
children. Sometimes you can make it mandatory that they become involved in the cadets or some group, even the 4-H
District
clubs. I mean,
Officer
it may not
Dexter
be a
Lloyd
uniformed group
Wright.
per se, but it will, of course, teach them the importance and the value of giving service, of volunteerism, of being part of a pursuit that is bigger than yourself.
And much of what they learn stays with them for life. As a former member, as a former Girl Guide and Brony, I can attest to that fact.
And it is a very important, and they can be very important agents of socialization as well. And with all that we see happening in terms of negative influences in society, it really is
This
good
concludes the presentation of
can
the
have
awards. Thank you, Your
that
Excellency.
kind of
Ladies and
influence on your
gentlemen,
children.
please remain in your seats. Thank you.
And we see now the Governor General, having concluded his work today, returning to his seat. We are now at the end of the ceremony. The final awards have been given out for the 2018 ceremony of investiture and installation of national honors and awards. We're looking at members of the cabinet on screen just now. And it has been a good morning. We have seen
It has.
so many Jamaicans, 206 Jamaicans, as a matter of fact, who 72 of them being members of the uniformed groups, the JDF, the Jamaica Constabulary Force, the Department of Correctional Services, and the Jamaica Fire Brigade, just now rounding out that group of uniformed officers who received medals of honor for meritorious service for a range of years. I mean, some as long as 40 years.
40.
We saw that. We also saw before that the badge of honor for gallantry being given out for persons who risked their lives going into burning buildings, some helping others in a flood in Montego Bay, flood waters.
Almost losing their lives.
Almost losing their lives. We saw another group of Jamaicans receiving the Order of Jamaica, commander class as well as officer class.
And one person who was not able to be with us today, Harry Belafonte, who would have collected his Order of Merit.
The highest honor given out this morning.
Today.
And it really, as I said before, is so good to be able to recognize Jamaicans in the land of the living, by the way, while they're still here, and many of them able to go up. We saw several persons in wheelchairs, I mean, who could not physically walk up to receive the award, but nevertheless they were here, they were present, and we understand and know how important that is for them to be able to go and to collect their award.
Yes. What you're about to hear is the Officer of the Day. That's the music you'll hear next as the band lines up.
We saw a shot of them just now on our screen, getting ready for that march on. The Guard of Honor, as we shared at the beginning, is furnished by the 2nd Jamaica Regiment this morning, 2JR as they are called, and we now hear the opening strains of that
in the background,
called the
Officer of the Day.
Yeah.
Officer of the Day.
Beginning to enter the parade area. We will see them as resplendent as they were at the beginning. Here they come now. Led by the JDF band, the massed band. And the massed band is led by Warrant Officer Class 1, Paul Johnson, today, with Staff Sergeant Paul Dunkley of 2JR as the drum major. 65 members of that band, inclusive of the corps of drums this morning. And we might have mentioned that the JDF band has vacancies now, and they're looking for persons to participate in the Armed Forces Day Parade in July in 2019.
Of course, you have to go through the Jamaica National Service Corps to join the massed bands, and you have to be between the ages of 18 and 23 years old.
Please stand.
We have guests standing now for the entrance of the band.
And the singing
You'll
of the
remain
national
standing for the
anthem.
national anthem, which will be singing, and that will be led by Andre Shepherd.
We see the Governor General there, Sir Patrick Allen.
Mass bands leading the way.
If you know someone or you are somebody who would want to join, you can also visit jdfweb.com. That's jdfweb.com for more information on how to become a member of the Jamaica National Service Corps and a member of the massed bands.
And we're looking now at the Guard of Honor and coming into focus. Those are your Queen's colors and your color ensigns for today. Carrying the Queen's colors as well as the regimental colors are two female members.
Shakira Sharp.
JCF.
Yes, that's Second Lieutenant Shakira Sharp and Second Lieutenant or Lieutenant Chelsea Montague.
A total of 90 members of the Jamaica Defense Force make up this morning's Guard of Honor. There are 15 females on parade in that Guard of Honor this morning. 10 are from intake 1802 of the JNSC, 2 officers from 2JR, and 3 female members of the massed bands. Standing by now. The Guard of Honor is now in place, and we will shortly hear the playing of the national anthem.
I believe what we're hearing now, since the music has changed, is the swing march.
You are correct, Vanessa. Warrant Officer Class 1, Paul Johnson.
The Governor General is now leaving the platform as we stand by for the playing of the national anthem.
Bringing to a close this 2018 ceremony of investiture and installation of the National Honors and Awards.
departures of Their Excellencies, the Governor General and the Most Honorable Lady Allen.
So we heard just now the singing of the national anthem, which was led by Andre Shepard, and we're seeing the massed bands and the Guard of Honor leaving the parade area. The Governor General and Lady Allen are also leaving the ceremonial area. We will also see the Prime Minister moving over to greet the recipients, as is the normal custom, and no doubt there will be attempts to get photos and just greeting them and having a chit-chat.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Prime Minister is now being escorted to greet the recipients. We're asking that guests remain in their seats so that the Prime Minister can greet the recipients in an orderly fashion. We hope that you'll assist us by complying with these instructions. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
We see there on camera Prime Minister Andrew Holness.
Prime Minister is recipient of
Wife
the Order
of the Prime
of
Minister,
the Nation,
Mrs. Juliet Holness, the Most Honorable,
which
will
means
also be greeting
he
the
is
recipients
properly
at this
styled
time.
the Most Honorable Andrew Holness, and that is by virtue of that title, Order of the Nation.
I believe all but one Prime Ministers, all our Prime Ministers, save one,
Right.
received the Order of the Nation.
And that would be former Prime Minister Bruce Golding, who
Bruce
did
Golding.
not receive that order. I think he declined
He did.
that order. With the Order of the Nation, the recipient, as well as his or her spouse, also is designated that title of the most honorable. Yep. And we're seeing, I mean, you can't see it at home, but to our left here is where the Prime Minister is now greeting recipients, persons who would have received awards. No doubt, you know, congratulations will be shared.
Photo opportunities.
Definitely. It has been a good day, Vanessa.
It has
been
and
a
the
good day.
rains have held, Stacey.
Yes, they did. I mean, we were a little
Nervous.
Yes, I was a little worried. I mean, this is an outdoor event. I mean, we're on the tents, but, you know, we wanted to make sure that the skies would hold up, and they have. It's very cool now, so, you know, it's a good.
It's been a good day.
It's been a good day.
It's been a good day.
And we're going to leave you now. Thank you so much for joining us for another presentation brought to you by the hardworking men and women of the Jamaica Information Service. Brought to you by the persons, by the stations who partner, TVJ, CVM, PBCJ as well, who
Love
partner
TV
to
as well.
bring the ceremony to you live. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Stacey Ann Smith, here with you once again.
And I'm Vanessa Silvera.
Saying goodbye for now. Enjoy the rest of your Heroes Day, and remember to be kind and take care on the roads.
Have a great one.